what's going on YouTube? Or Storm here with another discussion video today. Today we're going to be talking about how heroes can be more than Dark Law.dek. I remember, I think about a week ago, Yuginono did a little bit of a video talking about Dark Law just isn't enough to cut it anymore for hero players. Citing recent statistics at YCS Dallas where no hero players are in the top 32. If we go back and look at Nats, similar stats were there. Only one hero player in the top 64. Granted, it's over 1,000 people competing. Team Innovation Yugioh came pretty close at 69th place, but nevertheless, we only had 2 to 3 hero players getting close to the top 64 at Nats. Is definitely not where we want the deck to be. Now, obviously, the deck is a solid tier 2, but if you look at a deck like Ritual Beasts are in the very same area of tier, and they had plenty of success at Nationals this year. Met a couple of players taking it to top 6, which is pretty impressive for a deck that is such as Ritual Beast, that is not the easiest deck to play in retrospect. So with that out of the way, how can heroes be more than Dark Law.dek? Basically, not relying on Master Hero Dark Law's Walking Macrocosmos effect to win them the game. The biggest thing I think hero players need to do is probably play higher monster counts and run other engines. Meaning they've got to run, the whole the only 10 monster count for heroes, I just don't think is enough to cut it. Even if it gives you access to Master Hero Acid, which is a walking Harpy's Feather Duster to clear your opponent's back row, I just don't think that's enough. I think you're going to have to play more than the 3 Shadow Mist, 1 Alias, 2 to 3 Bubble Man, and the Goblin and Summoner Monks. I think the best engine you can probably play in the deck, since heroes make rank 4s pretty consistently, you can probably play the Clowns. Obviously, those would be the Perform Mages, playing a couple copies of Trick, maybe 1 to 2 copies of Trick Clown, 1 to 2 copies of Hat Tricker, and a few Damage Jugglers. Damage Juggler is also pretty good at keeping you safe in case you are one of those players who are still running a Hero Lives. Speaking of Hero Lives, I've always been one of those players who I'm really iffy on the card. I've never really liked it, but I think a Hero Lives is the type of card that you have to use strategically, that you don't want to instantly pay 4,000 life just to get Dark Law out on the field. However, I think the card is a lot safer when you have a card like Damage Juggler in your deck, similar to if you ran something like Gores. However, the problem with Gores and something like Heroes is that you play a pretty good amount of back row, so that's where Damage Juggler comes in. It's kind of like a pseudo, can keep you from dying, and it can search from the graveyard. So it's actually quite nice in that regard. I think that's the best thing you can do to heroes. Now, me personally, I'm currently, in my build, I'm running a few and also running Elemental Hero Blazeman, which is another card I'm going to talk about a little bit in a minute. But other cards I'm testing right now are some cards like Thunder King Raiho. Has always been a favorite of mine in heroes, because I feel like they've always been a little bit, especially with Dark Law now in the fold, they've always been a bit best played as with a few anti-meta cards. And Thunder King is very nice in that regard. The Trap Tricks thought process was that Trap Tricks, Trap Hole Nightmare, and even Void Trap Hole are very, very good cards in the current format. Trap Tricks, Trap Hole Nightmare is really good against Necros because it stops Trishula, stops a lot of their effects from resolving. Now, I still think Void Trap Hole is probably the better card. It is being hyped as of late. Nevertheless, speaking of Blazeman, I think he does add a lot of versatility to heroes. He basically, not only is he a poly searcher, whereas he has also basically the equivalent of any hero name in your deck. So if you don't open Shadow Mist, and a way to get to Shadow Mist, but you open with Blazeman, and a Mass Change, you can send Shadow Mist, get a search, and then Mass Change into Dark Law or Anki, whatever you prefer. The other thing now we got to talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, which is Stratos. My thing with Stratos is that the OCG has proven Stratos probably breaks heroes, and I think the thing with Stratos is a twofold thing. First off, you have to realize the guy who runs Konami over here in the TCG T-Work does not like Stratos. The 2 cards that I think he's known for not liking is Stratos and Heavy Storm. Those cards are firmly placed in the ban list since 2013 when we divided our ban list from the OCG. The biggest thing, T-Wort was the same guy who also left Bestiari placed at 1 until this year, recently on the April list, it finally came back to 3. This was a card that was placed at 1, I believe, since September of 2009 or 10. That's pretty incredible that he would leave a card like that, that all it does is an MST, essentially, when we have cards like Icarus Attack and Fire Lake that do a lot more than MST a card. He left that at 1 for quite a long time because of 1 format. Now, that probably means we're not... Now, that being said, what does Stratos... if you look at the OCG, what did Stratos do for heroes? Not only does it give them a fast-paced, consistent searcher, it also gives... The MST effect of Stratos is definitely not to be underestimated, because the hero build that topped in the Nats over at in the OCG, they ran anti-spell fragrance. So if you RP players out there, you know what I'm talking about. Some of you guys might main deck a card like anti-spell fragrance, because your opponent will set their spell cards and then you can just pop them with Hunting Ground. The same concept with Stratos. Your opponent sets all their spells, you call Haunted back Stratos and pop their spells and traps. So notice all the OCG builds ran triple Call the Haunted and triple Oasis of Dragon Souls to use Stratos, or abuse if you might prefer, as much as possible. So I think that's one of the reasons why we will probably not see Stratos come back anytime soon. And honestly, I look at it as a good thing, because if we were to get Stratos back, a few cards would probably... It would hinder heroes more than that 1 copy of Stratos would help. We might see Rhoda go to 1, we might see Shadow Mist go to 1, and that's not something I really want to see. I think I want heroes to I want heroes to at least have the access to the cards they have. And the other thing about heroes is that I feel like you have to be a lot more fast-paced. Cards like Form Change are pretty much essential, I think, to the current hero strategy. I've been told by multiple people that both Blazeman and Form Change are kind of in the similar vein. They're not good in heroes. But I've noticed a lot of these guys are frequently bandwagon players who hopped into the deck with a meta mindset. I think you have to remember heroes are not a top tier deck. You have to remember that you cannot, and the other thing is you can't play them like old hero decks with Airblade Turbo. Shadow Mist is not Stratos, so that's the biggest problem I think a lot of players make when it comes to the hero lives, as I mentioned previously. But as far as do I think heroes can be good in this current format, absolutely. Dark Law is one of those cards that I don't think will ever be a bad card, simply because the fact that not only is it a one-sided macrocosmos, it also is going to be good as long as we have pendulums are relevant, because Dark Law prevents pendulums from going to the extra deck. So that's one area I think Dark Law is always going to be a good card. However, I think in the current format, I think a Protect the Castle Dark Law deck is not enough, and hero players need to adjust and change if they want to keep up with the current, particularly with the upcoming power creep we have in the form of the Pendulum structure deck, the Monarch structure deck, and coming pretty quickly in Dimensions of Chaos with Gradles and Magispectors coming out. So anyway, guys, as always, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. When you watch my videos, tune in on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. Leave a comment, and I will catch you guys later.